you need to be able to actually articulate stuff outside of business. The business part of this is going to be inherent in everything you do. You are your business. You are your brand. You're living it every day. You're not going to have to like scrape the bottom of the barrel to come up with like good business topics to talk about. You really need to get really great at exploring. A lot of his stuff specifically is more about the personal growth aspect of what he does and how it leads to his business. You know what I mean? Like he does things a certain way.
You said if all we were talking about was how to generate leads, that conversation ends at a certain point. Like, okay, here's what you do, now go do it, right? The reason all of this shit comes back to mindset all the time is because that's the thing that's ever evolving. That's the thing that we constantly need work on. That's the thing that's always just a beating.
Unbridled honesty in everything that you do. And what I even mean by that is even in this journey alone, the honesty in that. The first video on your YouTube channel would be like something around the lines of like how to create a brand on you. You know what I mean? Like, it's you've been like, I'm figuring this the fuck out along the way, and I'm taking you along on my journey. Like, and it's us having this conversation right now. It's a meta thing. Like, we're gonna be on YouTube talking about how to build a brand. You know, and there's nothing wrong. Like, honestly, that's super fucking engaging, right?
All right, 7:15. Every morning we're out the door. You know, part of my routine is making sure that he has a routine as well. So we both have stuff that we get done in the morning. That's our responsibilities to get ready to go. Like I said, we're out the door every day by 7:15 to get him to school so he can have time to get settled into his seat. I've got time to make it to the gym. The best thing kind of about that, especially like having those habits in the morning, is that one, it just gives you structure to your day. And most of my difficult stuff, most of the things that are really hard for me to do mentally are done by 9 a.m. Off to school. See ya. You ready to have an amazing day, dude? Yeah. What do we think about the carpool line at your school? It is bad. Yeah, that's part of it too, is just taking into account extra time in your day, right? Like the carpool lane at Luke's school is ridiculous. But if I take this into account in my morning, we get up and we knock our stuff out early enough, then it's not a huge issue. It doesn't hold us back. It doesn't cause all that frustration. So, you know, when you do have things in your day that are just naturally going to be hindrances from a timing perspective, just make sure to take those into account. And they're not nearly as, I don't know, frustratingly time consuming as they can be. They're more just frustrating because they make no sense why a whole bunch of people who have the ability to have children also can't figure out how to just get in a line and proceed forward. But what are you gonna do? This is exactly why I train with this guy. I need minute, detailed instructions on every little bit of movement. Otherwise, I'll get super off track. People ask me, I've been working out with Steven for about 3 years now. About 3 years, dude? Yeah, longer than that. It's fucking long ass time.
Matt and I talk a shitload about life. Yeah. I mean, we solve like a lot of life problems. If you think about like coaching,
we talk about both of our divorces in here.
I mean, he helped me through my divorce
and he's now coaching me up where he was at 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully I've imparted a lot of knowledge with Matt. There's times that like, from the very beginning, you said we started 3 years ago, that was a pivotal point in my real estate career. And one of the things you said to me that now it's funny, that you're like, man, that's gonna get a whole lot less worrisome as soon as you have more deals. Then you're just worried about one deal. And I think about that a lot, and then catching the cat by the tail.
The catching the cat by the tail, when somebody gave that one to me, dude, I mean, that is true real estate. The less you have to worry about, you know, when you only have one deal, the whole world falls apart when that one deal falls apart. When you got 5 or 6, it feels different, right?
It gives you leverage to do, and not that we're taking risk or anything, but to ultimately take a chance of like killing deals, because every deal, some deals aren't meant to close.
You're just fundamentally better at your job when you're not worried about any outside forces, right? Like if any part of a person's bank account enters into the thought process of how they represent a client, obviously they're in a really, really sketchy space as being the proper fiduciary.
And this idea came from Ryan Serhant, who started a vlog a few years ago, and Brian, my business partner, turned me on to it and started watching it. And then kind of through that, deciding to make the investment in the branding, the future, to take the courses and really understand like how he grew such a huge social media following. This vlog is kind of the beginning of that. I love the idea of people being able to opt into liking me or not liking me, right? I love the idea of being able to take real estate agents who maybe are struggling in their career and take some of the knowledge that I've learned, and they can now apply that. You know, there's so many things that we hear as we kind of move throughout our work day, especially as entrepreneurs, that are really quippy and they're nice, really one-liners, but they don't make any sense until they become an experience you've had. And I have had that through watching Sirhan's stuff, even coaching with Adam Hergenrother, and like all these coaches that I have and all these experiences I get to have with high-level thinkers. You hear them put something in a way that is all of a sudden incredibly relatable. It makes sense to a thought that you've had so much difficulty working yourself through. And for me, if I can do that for somebody who's at a level where they're trying to level up, and all of a sudden they hear something that I say that all of a sudden makes all that snap into place, that's a really cool side benefit of doing all this for me. So I don't really remember where I heard it, but I was listening to a podcast or something, or a sermon, and somebody's talking about picturing your thoughts as like a cat, and you got to catch them by the tail. And I was going through a time in my life when I was really struggling with just like the speed of the mind, right? Like I couldn't quiet my mind down at all. I didn't have any techniques or tools really to practice it. I was just kind of self-teaching mental health, which I'm like the worst person to teach myself that. And I heard that, and at the time I was kind of obsessing over this girl, and I was just really obsessed about, you know, our relationship ending, and I couldn't get it out of my mind. I wondered if I messed up, and that was right about the time that I heard this. And essentially the concept is, you know, you have these thoughts that are constantly running through your head that we don't even know are there. And I started being really aware of when I was having thoughts about her, right? And making sure I caught those by the tail, and almost had this like vision of, once I had them by the tail, they were then a 3D physical object that I could then fucking yeet into the canyon of stupid thoughts. And surprisingly over time, right, I was only successful at it probably 10% of the time initially. But over time, I got more and more successful at capturing those thoughts, to the point where then you kind of stop thinking about the person. Then it becomes a habit not to think about them, right? Then the mental health part kicks in, where you start hoping they're doing well, right? And so when Steve and I were, you know, working out probably 2 years ago, he was, you know, going through his challenges, and I shared that with him, and now we reference it all the time, man. It's like I was thinking something shitty about somebody who screwed me over, and I just had to catch that cat by the tail and get it out of there. And I think it's a really great practice for those people who need that, like almost that physical motion. I had this guy one time tell me about the armor of God or whatever, right? And I'm not a biblical person, so don't hammer me on this, but he actually envisioned himself putting on the breastplate and picking up the sword and doing all those things. I think it's a similar exercise, right? You envision yourself grabbing that cat by the tail, and that cat is that thought you want to get rid of. Toss that thing out in the freaking ocean and let it do what the ocean does. So I don't know. I think it's a cool way to capture your thoughts and not have them rule your day, because that's something I actively work on all the time.
Mondays are the greatest.